Young, foul and one. Wow. Oh, Young again.
He's smiling out there. I don't blame you.
Back come the Hogs the other way. B.J. Young.
One of only 4 5-stars in the history of Razorback basketball, an all-SEC freshman, and one of the most lethal scorers in the past decade. Let's welcome in B.J. Young, former Arkansas Razorback. B.J., you heard some of your highlights coming in. Between the Florida win over the number 2 team in the country or the Missouri win where you ended the game with 2 and 1s, which game stands out to you as more memorable?
I would say that beating number 2 Florida was pretty fun because they were the top guys. And it's always fun knocking off some top competitors. But that hometown rivalry in Mizzou, it was really, really fun. That was really, like, one of a kind feeling I'll never forget. I love that game.
Meant a little more to you as a Missouri guy, I know, kind of around the St. Louis area. I'm assuming you really had something in there that you really wanted to beat the Missouri Tigers that day.
For sure. Coach Anderson, just because he coached there. When I was there, they really didn't even recruit me, and I always had a grudge against that.
But I remember hearing about this when you got to school, your senior year, heading to the state championship where you guys won it all. You guys beat Bradley Beal and Chaminade in the quarterfinals by 1 point. Can you tell us about what you do remember?
Oh, yeah, that game was probably the most talked about and most memorable game in St. Louis basketball history. We were just having a huge argument about that on live with some other guys from St. Louis basketball. To take you guys through it, they beat us earlier in the year on ESPN, and it was like a big game because we were both ranked top 15 recruits in the nation. I think I was like 15th at the time, and he was probably second or third. Wow, it was like 2 classes of giants at the time. And when we played, and like I said, they beat us the first time, this one was actually to get the championship. That was just a regular season. This was to get to the state championship, and everybody from both sides of town were coming out, so the gym was flowing outside the doors, and it was like a back-and-forth game the whole game. So we was giving them what they wanted, and we both probably had like 35 points apiece. I just happened to pull it out at the end. So actually, I had a grudge against Florida, too. That's why I said when you said Florida or Mizzou, Brad went to Florida, and I wanted to still make sure we beat them in college as well. So I didn't mind the Mizzou or Florida when you asked me that question either.
B.J. Young with us here on the Morning Rush. I know you're playing overseas. We're going to talk about that, playing in China and what the prospects of that even look like right now. But how much do you get to keep up with Arkansas basketball? How much have you seen Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe? And how much do you really know about this last year's team with your career being halfway around the world?
Man, actually, since Coach Anderson left this past year, I usually was keeping up with the guys, but I got a little bit out of touch when Coach Anderson left, because that was my guy and a whole new staff came in. But I still want to keep up. Like, I got to come back. I want to come back and work out with the guys and get to know them and get to know the new coaching staff as well. That would be love. And I'm down to do that anytime. I love this, Arkansas love.
BJ, I wanted to ask you about, obviously a lot of people paying attention to what Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe are going to do. Mason has put his name in for the draft, but hasn't hired an agent that we know of yet. Isaiah Joe still weighing his options. You went through that after 2 seasons. Walk us through the process mentally. What's going on their side of it right now as they try to figure out what their best choices are for them?
What grades are those kids in?
So Isaiah is a sophomore. Depending, might come back for his junior year, and then Mace is a redshirt junior.
Yeah.
If I'm Isaiah, since he already saved 2, I would come back. What was his? I don't know, man. It depends on how hot the iron is for him.
Like Mason was SEC Player of the Year, averaged 22, had a hell of a season.
He needs to leave. He needs to leave yesterday. He needs to go. It's no reason for the kid to return. No reason, and everybody in Arkansas knows it. Me, after my freshman year, there was no reason for me to come back to school. If you did what you had to do, they should be happy. He's happy, and they should let the kid move on with his life. If I was Joe and he feels that he can come back and give one more solid performance in a year, in junior years, kids are pretty hot too, I would come back. But if he feel like he's a professional and he has the right group of people around him, he should take that next step.
you went undrafted but worked your way through the Rockets organization, but spent some time in what's now the G League and some others. Tell us what life is like at the G League level and those levels just below the NBA.
See, it's actually a lot better in the G League now. Since I've been in, and it was pretty solid back then, but I think they're even getting paid more now. So kids that come out, they have a nice option. But when I was in it, it was I went through my summer league process, so I was practicing with the Rockets. They picked me up right after the draft. They gave me a call, and they was like, "We want you on our summer league team, and we want you, So I was first. We had a couple practices, and guys like Pat Beverly and Terrence Jones, they were still playing in the summer league as well, even though they had played in the playoffs the year before. They had came back and were playing in the summer league, so I got a chance to practice with them. But I was in Orlando. And I had to sit out the first 2 games because Pat Bev and those guys were still playing. But when I got my chance, I played pretty good. I showed what I can do. And they signed me to a partial contract, and then I went down to their D-League team. And the D-League is that's kind of different. It was, at the time, I was pretty young. So it was it was a lot of older guys in the D League. So when you're I was pretty young and you're on your own, you're just kind of trying to get acclimated and see what's going on because, the NBA, they're flying everywhere. And even college, you flying everywhere. When you go to the D League, you traveling by bus. You might travel 4 hours in a snowstorm on a bus. For sure, I have before. In small towns like Iowa, small little Iowa, anywhere. And you just have to get used to doing that, coming from a big platform like Arkansas and coming from Plains and being the youngest one. I probably was the youngest kid in the whole G League at the time. When I went, I was probably one of the youngest people because I had to be only 20, a year or 2 out, and there wasn't that many people my age in. So it was a good experience. And I would just say I think they got a lot better with it now.
Is that a hard adjustment going from Arkansas where you're flying private charters, you're staying in the nicest hotels, there's always a great buffet with breakfast and dinner and pizza after the game, and every need's taken care of, great facilities? Is that the hardest adjustment? You think, well, I'm in professional basketball now, I'll have everything, and you find out facilities and treatment and travel and all that's just not quite as good as it was at colleges.
It's a little bit of an adjustment being a younger guy, but coming from St. Louis and not coming from much, that's not the major part for me. The major part was sometimes guys may be coming from the NBA. They may be signed to an NBA team, and prior to the season, you may do everything correct, but your coach may tell you it's going to be a guy coming from the NBA team who has to play 40 minutes a game, so you can only play 8 minutes a game, BJ. Even if you do everything perfect, this player is signed to the team, and he's going to come down, and he has to play this certain amount of minutes, so you can only play 8 minutes per game, even though we know you just as good as him, but he's signed and you're just in our D-League system. So it could be a situation like that. So you just have to learn how to manage and stay focused and say, okay, I will eventually get my turn. I will eventually get a fair shake, and I will be able to play and show what I can do. So you just got to stay mentally prepared for the, ups and downs in the mental game also.
Speaking with BJ Young, former Razorback here on the Morning Rush. BJ, I remember when you burst on the scene, you really stood out to me. You're going to the defending national champion Connecticut Huskies, and you hang 28 on them. Do you feel like that game kind of really set the tone for your freshman season?
I think it really did. It just let people know, we got something on our hands that's not – I would just want to know that I wasn't fearful of going in a hostile environment and giving a show and playing my best and not being afraid to play against great competition. When I play against the best competition, you're probably going to get the best out of me because I'm so ready to show that I can compete with the top guys that it just comes out of me. And the UConn game, that was just another game. Honestly, I have coming from high school averaging 30 and going on a circuit averaging 35, and I just felt shoot, I'm supposed to be doing this at the time. That was only 7 games in.
Just picking up where you left off from high school, right, man?
Yes, sir. That's why I felt like I was supposed to be doing that.
You mentioned some of your teammates in the G League for the Rockets, Terrence Jones out of Kentucky, Patrick Beverly out of Arkansas. You got to play with Marshawn Powell. That duo of you guys was pretty fun. BJ, who was your favorite teammate, and then who would you say your best teammate was that you played with over the years?
Actually, James Harden was on the team, too, and Dwight Howard was on the team with me. So, actually, I would probably have to say James Harden.
That's a pretty good one, man.
Yeah, good name.
Yeah, like, we were I got, like, some funny little stories. Like, we used to play, like, King of the Hill. You guys know where King of the Hill is when you do the one-on-one line?
And you stay. Yeah. If you score, you stay. If you don't score, you move out, right?
Yes. We were doing those pretty much in the summer every day, like me, James, Pat Bell, Jeremy Lin, Isaiah Cannon. Like every day, me and James would be the only ones to win a spot. I kid you not. It'll be like 4, 5 every spot. Like in competition, like I just told you, like I'm gonna play super hard. So like we'll get to the last spot every day. Me and him 4-4. You gotta score on me, James, or like call a foul or something, because we were just going back and forth. And that's like a memory that I had that I just remember. And but James, he has so much stuff, and he's really big. Like most people don't know how big he is. I think James Harden's probably 6'7", like 240. He's a really big guard, a really, really big point guard.
BJ Young with us here on the Morning Rush. You've been playing overseas, been playing in China. What's that experience been like for you the last 3 years?
Oh, China has treated me so well. I have played and lived over there, and I've got used to the culture and being over there. China pretty much has everything you can possibly think about. Like anything you want to, start up a business or any venture, you can pretty much go find your market and your surplus and start your business from scratch if you want to. And on the basketball side of things, they just show me a lot of love out there, and I have a lot of fans. I even have my own basketball shoe coming out later this year. It's going to be called BJ Young. Yes, it's promoted on my Instagram. And since the corona pandemic, we just had to slow down. The factory's closed for a second just to make sure everything was safe. So once that gets back up and running, we'll have the shoe later this year.
Yeah. Well, obviously everything's shut down now with coronavirus. Were you there when this outbreak happened? Tell me what was going on with you and those around you as you were kind of near or at the epicenter of what has now plagued the world.
Yes, I was. When it first started, it was apparently they said Wuhan, and Wuhan is way up north in North China. I was in South China down in a city named Guangzhou. And it wasn't really affecting us because the corona really can stay along where it's cold in cities where it's colder. And most people don't know that. And so since it's cold up North China and Wuhan, it was affecting them a lot. But like I said, I was down south where it was hot. But since it started to get worse, and they shut the whole city of Wuhan down, like they wouldn't even let the people leave out of the city for a time period. And then after that, they put in a law to where everybody had to wear a mask. It was mandatory you wear a mask. If you didn't have a mask, you couldn't go into a store, or they could refuse your service. They wouldn't, so they had to start doing a mask. And then sometime when we were driving down the highway, it would be like a temperature check. Like it would be a police and a doctor outside, and then you have to stop the car and put your head out the window.
Wow.
And if you have a fever or anything, you would have to get out the car and go quarantine wherever the quarantine is. If you were okay, you can keep driving down the road and go to your destination. But it was getting critical, so I had to, get back to the States just for a second.
That's just scary to think about, the way of life we have here versus they just drag you out of your car and take you to a quarantine. That's just scary.
And I even once I started seeing that, I was like, well, I probably want to go home for a second.
BJ Young with us here on the Morning Rush. All right, we heard this whole started with someone eating the wrong kind of bat or whatever in a market. Here's what I want to know. What's the strangest thing you've been offered to eat or you've actually eaten while being in China?
Pig blood.
What?
Ugh.
like they put like it's so big in China, and they're so like it's kind of like Arkansas. You know how everybody in Arkansas does crop work, and they're working outside and planting their own food and stuff. It's kind of like that in China. They really self-sufficient, and I guess they can eat a lot more stuff since they're used to doing it. But like I've probably been offered like make my I'll just say pig blood.
Wow. Heard a lot of part of the pig, but not that one.
That's extensive enough. BJ, since we're on the food conversation, let's get to some good food. St. Louis barbecue. You going Pappy's or you going Bogart's?
I actually don't even like barbecue.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I actually like St. Louis pizza and St. Louis Chinese food. People don't know those two things. This pizza place called Emo's. Jason Tatum actually like does commercials for them. I don't know if you've seen it before. And Chinese food, we have like really specific Chinese food. Our rice is really fried, and we have like crab rangoon that are really specially cooked. Like only St. Louis people would know the taste. But barbecue, my parents love it.
All right, BJ, before we let you go, I got a chance to go to Mardi Gras in St. Louis. Can you explain to Tommy here that Mardi Gras in St. Louis is a blast? The St. Louis Mardi Gras, will you tell him and explain to him how fun that actually is?
Bro, you have to get out here. It's so many people out there just having a blast, just having a good drink, and just give you that feel of like, oh, yeah, I'm about to have a good night tonight, you know?
Well, while you're explaining stuff to me, explain to Ty why Cardinal baseball is the right way. The Cardinal way is the right way because he doesn't think the Cardinal way is the right way.
The Cardinal, the best fans in any sport ever.
11-time champions.
I'm a Royals fan, BJ.
The Royals, oh my God, they got one little lucky title and they're, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, they got a baseball, now they got a football title. I might have to jump over to KC Sports myself.
Oh, my goodness. Well, BJ, next time we're in St. Louis, we'll have to go to Emo's Pizza. Maybe we'll stop by Ted Drew's or something, or one of those Asian places you were talking about as well.
Yes, sir, for sure.
Awesome, man. BJ Young, former Arkansas Razorback, kind enough to give us some time this morning. BJ, we really appreciate it, man, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon.
Okay, you guys, you know, it's all Arkansas love, man. I really appreciate you calling me, and I hope everybody's okay during the pandemic.